This link is for fourth grade, going along with the story The Gold Rush Game. If you go ahead and turn your Treasures textbook to page 666 and 667, this is where we're going to go ahead and begin. Of course, the first thing I'd like to do is go over the vocabulary words that we've encountered in this unit. First word, of course, is reference. A reference is a source of information or a mention of a source of information. Prospectors. Prospectors are people who search and explore for precious minerals. Disappointment. When things do not happen the way a person wants or expects, he or she faces disappointment. Annoyed. A person who is annoyed is bothered to the point of being upset or angry. Circular. If the movement or shape of something is circular, it is round. Outstretched. Something that is outstretched is extended outward. Glinted. If something glinted, it sparkled with flashes of light. Queues. Long braided braids that hang down the back. Earthquake, a movement in the earth's crust that causes strong shaking. Ivory, the substance that makes up the tusks of some animals. And internet, a network that links computers all over the world. Now, if you go ahead and direct your attention to page 666, let's talk a little bit about the genre that we're going to be reading the story about. The genre is science fiction. And science fiction is a fantasy in which an invention involving science or technology affects history or imaginary characters. And of course, this week, our comprehension strategy is going to be cause and effect. And we're going to use the cause and effect diagram to help us work through that as we read the story. Remember that each event or action often leads directly to one another in the events. Remember, a cause is the reason why something happened, and the event or the effect is what happened from the cause. With that being said, let's go ahead and direct our attention to page 668, and let's go ahead and begin reading the story. As we're reading, we are going to look, however, for some cause and effects that occur within the story. Eric Wong looked at his new game on the computer screen. Let's play, he clicked the button to start. The Gold Rush, his friend Matt O'Brien read out loud as he rolled his chair closer. What's that mean? I want to see it. Come on, I'm going first. I'm older, said Eric. Besides, it's my game. Be nice. Eric's mom came up behind him. We bought the game so Eric could learn more about the gold rush, she said. His dad and I are tracing our family tree, and Eric's great-great-great-grandfather on his dad's side came to California from China during the gold rush. But we don't know that much about him. Hey, look at the game, said Eric. On the screen he saw steep mountain slopes covered with tall green trees. Some men wearing broad-brimmed hats rode horses along a muddy path leading mules and bundles on their back. Picks and shovels were tied to the bundles. Chinese men with long braided queues down their backs squatted by a rushing river. Who are those guys? Matt asked. Are they looking for gold? I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. Now, Eric's parents want him to learn more about his family history. So what does this cause them to do? Look back in that third paragraph. Well, the cause is that Eric's parents want him to learn about their family history. And because they want him to learn about his family history, they buy him a Gold Rush game. Okay, with that being said, let's continue to read. They might be, said Eric's dad as he came into the room. He held out a small piece of paper with 2 Chinese characters written on it. This is the name of our ancestors who first came to California. I don't know Chinese, but my grandfather wrote it down for me when I was growing up. Eric turned and looked. What was his name? Daido, his dad said. I'll say it slower. Daido. It means great path. That's a good name for a man who took a great adventure traveling across the Pacific Ocean to a new land. In Chinese, his family name would have been given first, and so he was called Wang Dido. Wang Dido? Eric repeated. Yeah. Do you know how to write that? Matt asked, looking at the name. No, Eric shrugged. Well, we'll let you play the game, said Eric's mom. Come on, dear. She and Eric's dad walked away. Look, Eric pointed at the screen. A miner wearing a broad-brimmed gray hat lifted a rock showing a button that said, "Press here if you dare." I dare you, Matt said loudly. I'm doing it. Annoyed, Eric pressed the button. Suddenly, Eric and Matt found themselves standing in a narrow space between two large, tall rocks by the muddy road in the mountains, with trees towering over their head. Miners and prospectors walked and rode past. Eric's heart beat faster with the excitement, but he was also a little scared. What happened? Matt asked. This is creepy. Where are we? Eric smelled the scent of pine tree and kicked at the mud. I think we're really in the gold rush. I think we went back in time. Did you say back in time? Matt stared around them in shock. Come on, Eric. Come on. Eric walked up to the mysterious miner who had lifted the rock. Do you know a man named Wang Dado? Eric carefully pronounced his ancestor's name, remembering to put his family's name first. The miner laughed. Then he looked closely at Eric and Matt. You're not from around here, are you? No, we're not, said Eric, hoping the man wouldn't ask any more questions. Do you know how many people are in this area? We're on the Feather River upstream from Marysville, in the western foothills of the Sierra Nevada in California. Men came here to find gold. We're called the 49ers because so many of us have come this year. What year? Matt asked, his eyes wide. 1849, of course, said the miner. He frowned. Don't you boys know what year it is? Gold was discovered in this area last year. Now 49ers are coming all over America and lots of other places. Someone stop right there. How did Matt and Eric find themselves back in 1849? How did they find themselves back in 1849 during the gold rush? Give you a few minutes to think about that. As I write, Eric and Matt end up in 1849 during the California gold rush. But what was the cause of them getting to the gold rush, going back in time? What was it? Well, somehow pressing the button on the computer game took them to another place. So we can say that Eric pushes a button on the screen, which then the effect is that Eric and Matt end up in 1849 during the California gold rush. Let's continue to read. Now, how did they get here? How did they get here? Eric asked. I came overland from the eastern United States by wagon train. A good friend of mine took a ship from the east coast around Cape Horn to the tip of South America. From China, other men come on ships across the Pacific Ocean. But where do they live? Eric asked. I don't see any houses here. Marysville is a new town, said the miner. It was started up by miners and prospectors. But men also live in camps, sometimes together and sometimes on their own, while they look for gold. He pointed to the river. But the best way to find a Chinese miner is to ask other Chinese miners. So I'm going to stop right there, and can you go ahead and summarize the information that the prospector told Eric and Matt? Well, we can say that in 1849, men traveled over long distances to come to the Feather River in California to prospect for gold that had been discovered there a year before. Now, living conditions in Marysville was difficult because there were few houses. So many people arrived so quickly that no one had time to build them. So many men are living in tents. Now, Matt ran down to the edge of the river, where a Chinese miner squatted by the rushing water, swirling sand in a metal pan. Eric hurried after him. Hey, mister, is your name Wang Dado? No, the man shook his head. Then he gave Eric a little smile and pointed downstream. You see that man? His name is Wang. Now Matt ran down the bank, but this time Eric ran too. They stopped next to Mr. Wang together, near a big tree growing right beside the river. Are you named Wang Dado? Eric asked. Mr. Wang was a little younger than the other Chinese miner. His long braided queue swung behind him as he looked up. I am, he said, giving both boys a smile. Why do you ask? Eric was afraid to explain he and Matt had traveled through time from the future. He was sure Mr. Wang wouldn't believe him and might chase them away, so he changed the subject. My name's Eric, and this is my friend Matt. Have you found any gold? Not today. Some days I find enough gold to buy food that will last me the next time I find gold. I filed this